as hot hatchbacks have turned out to be perpetually intense, offering as much oomph as some absolute games autos. Costs have risen unavoidably, as well. There are a modest bunch of these models that have fearlessly stayed moderate, however, while likewise propelling execution, solace, common sense and effectiveness. So they convey precisely what a hot hatchback should. The facelifted 308D by Peugeot Sport is one illustration, highlighting some styling changes and a refreshed infotainment framework like the normal model to make it more usable, without influencing the connecting with case and execution that made its ancestor a hit. On the off chance that you have around £30,000 consuming a gap in your pocket, or then again a £3,000 store and a month-to-month spending plan to manage the cost of one of these autos, the trio we've amassed here are the response to the inquiry, how might I go as quick as feasible for my cash? Nonetheless, the manual just 308D may have its work cut out against the new, DSG Autobox prepared, Volkswagen Golf GTI Performance and Skoda Octavia vRS 245, both of which convey savagely successful pace. Each of the three models in this test gloat enormous brakes, sharp differentials and centered suspension innovation, having as of late been refreshed and sharpened to convey most extreme driver rushes and capacity without much bargain. Which is the best arrangement? Some inconspicuous corrections to Peugeot's most centered family hatchback have seen it return with the possibility to beat Volkswagen's refreshed Golf GTI and the Skoda Octavia vRS in their most forceful particulars. So has Peugeot enhanced what it expected to with this £28,590 308D? To extricate the Peugeot's most extreme execution you need to rev the 1.6-liter turbo, however it's a delight to do as such. It truly begins waking up at around 4,500 revolutions per minute and increase unequivocally to its 6,000 revolutions per minute power top. Be that as it may, regardless of whether you would prefer not to whip it, there's sufficiently still dureness lit down in the rev go. The gearbox isn't a powerless connection beside its adversaries, either. It's not the most delightful moving unit, but rather it doesn't discourage advance. Rather, its days of work accentuate the charming attack from the motor as it revs hard towards its limiter for a turbo motor. With the restricted slip differential helping footing, the 308D quickened off the line to 60 miles per hour out of an astonishingly fast 6.0 seconds for a manual, making it the speediest auto here. In-equip execution was great, as well, with the Peugeot quickening in the vicinity of 50 and 70 miles per hour in fifth in 4.2 seconds. The brakes are relentless and have the most pleasant feel, while the guiding is speedy, thanks to a limited extent to the 308's little directing wheel. It's preferable in this to over the consistent auto, in light of the fact that the expanded track width, sticky tires and firmer suspension imply that there's sufficient hold for the undercarriage to keep pace with your sources of info. It's additionally pleasantly customizable with a lift of the throttle mid-corner. The exchange off for this dexterity and directing reaction in the 308 is a firm ride. You feel suspension and wheel developments all the more savagely, yet despite everything they're adjusted off with a rich edge over most surfaces, just potholes truly clonk through the body. This concentration means that there's more street commotion and less solace on a long adventure. However, it's a long way from excruciating, and on the correct street the 308 is the most engaging and including auto of the three on test. The Golf GTI is a notable hot hatchback, and after over 40 years it's returning here in Mk7.5 frame to go up against the refreshed Peugeot 308D. This DSG prepared 5 entryway performance display costs from £31,505, or £30,335 with a manual gearbox, to coordinate the 308, so while it's more costly than the Peugeot by very some edge, is it justified, despite all the trouble? In the damper's comfort setting, the GTI rides defects in the street moderately sweetly. Heftier knocks are more recognizable because of our auto's 990 pounds 19-inch compounds, however in the most part the Golf handles poor surfaces well, sifting through everything except the harshest interruptions. Despite everything, it feels energetic even in this mode, with a lot of hold and extraordinary directing reaction, albeit, tragically, the VW does not have the Peugeot's controlling feel. Out and about, choosing Sport dissolves a portion of the auto's solace without including any greater inclusion. The directing weights up, as well, and the DSG box will clutch gears for more, yet with the versatile dampers fitted, comfort ought to be your default inclination. There's additionally an individual mode, so you can tailor the setup to your enjoying. The Skoda has a comparable setting. However, you can at present adventure the motor's energy. Footing is solid on account of the GTI performance's differential. The VW scrabbles for grasp off the line at first and doesn't have the 308's footing. The diff isn't exactly as forceful, yet the more unobtrusive character suits the Golf's regular, all-rounder approach. Notwithstanding its energy deficiency to the Peugeot, the Golf recorded a respectable 6.1 seconds 0 to 60 miles per hour time at our test track, only a tenth slower than the 308. It was helped by the DSG box, which handles gear changes pleasantly in auto mode. Take manual control utilizing the controlling wheel paddles, however, and the movements aren't as smart as we anticipate from VW's DSG units, slurring a little at high revs under full throttle. Hold your foot down and there's a remunerating soundtrack, with a pleasant, abrupt tone from the GTI's twin leaf deplete. While you won't not see the performance model's additional 15 bhp over the standard GTI out and about, you'll feel the impact of that diff and the brakes that convey a lot of halting force, in spite of the fact that the pedal feel isn't as decent as the Peugeot's. Skoda's Octavia vRS 245 offers execution to coordinate its adversaries here with the guarantee of much greater common sense. At 28,985 pounds in DSG hatchback shape, or 27,595 pounds with a manual box, it's likewise definitely evaluated. So would it be able to blend of credits lead it to triumph? The additional length in the Octavia's wheelbase contrasted and the Golf and the quick guiding of the Peugeot mean the Skoda isn't as lithe as both of its opponents. Be that as it may, this is all relative. Point the VRS down a twisty street and drive it hard and you'll be awed at the level of execution and poise on offer from a family hatchback of this size. All things considered, the guiding isn't as open as the 308's, and with a bigger inclination controlling wheel contrasted and even the Golf's, it feels a little slower, which means you need to work it somewhat harder and additionally quicker to get the Octavia to turn. It does in any event mean it's a moderately unwinding auto to journey in spite of its driver-centered setup, and keeping in mind that the additional length of the wheelbase may trade off nimbleness, possibly finished its shorter hatchback matches here. It means the Skoda's body is by all accounts more made over knocks. In comfort mode, the dampers manage unpleasant streets genuinely well, despite the fact that on standard 19-inch wheels regardless you feel poor surfaces. This is more articulated on the off chance that you select the sport setting, where the Octavia's body control is likewise more tightly. Be that as it may, it feels harsher in this mode than the mechanically comparable Golf. In a straight line there's next to no to part them, however. While the Skoda was 3/10 slower than the VW from 0 to 60 miles per hour, taking 6.4 seconds, its in-adapt times were extensively indistinguishable to the VW's, yet footing is comparative on account of that back front differential. It's not as forceful as the 308T, but rather you can feel it attempting further bolstering your good fortune on more tightly nation streets where you're on and off the throttle. In front of the rest of the competition, Peugeot 308T. By the tightest of edges, the 308T pips the Golf because of its prevalent execution, more prominent hold and readiness, and greater boot. The facelift is minor and the infotainment changes don't address the framework's primary defect. In any case, it's as yet the most including auto here, with the most noteworthy execution constraints that don't affect its ease of use, which include most a hot bring forth. The nature of the complete means the Golf GTI will be a flawless hot bring forth to live with. However, even as a manual, It's costlier to purchase through and on PCP, and doesn't drench you in the driving background like the 308, while the VW does not have the Peugeot's common sense regardless of whether its infotainment setup is vastly improved. Running costs take all the more rearward sitting arrangement here, however there isn't much to part these three, either.